So we're going to jump in here and talk about select. So when I watch, interpret, I'll probably have several options. Then the next thing is to choose which option to take. That's the S in the wiser. You choose the option, right? So I haven't looked at what's at stake. You look at the option. If I do A, what are the outcomes? Don't forget, you have a right to choose the option, but for every option, there are consequences. So I've watched, I've interpreted, there are options to take. For each option, there are their own consequence, right? So whatever option I choose, I don't have a right to decide the consequence because each option has its own consequence. I can't choose A and want the consequence of B. If I choose A, then I'm going to get the consequence of A, not the consequence of B. So when I look and I want to respond to life, and whatever option I choose, I'm choosing the consequence of that option, right? So that's what I do after I've watched, I've interpreted, I select the option that I believe is the best one for me. So I'm not under the influence of the moment. My mind is sound. Bible says God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. When I step back out of the frame to work and to interpret, I am exercising a sound mind. I'm exercising a mind that is under control. I'm exercising a mind that is not clouded. I'm exercising a mind that is conscious, is aware, is not lost in the moment, but is still very much alive. I'm able to take in everything that is happening, right? So when I do that, so it's my place to select, right? And I'm choosing from the option, and there are, consequences that go with each one that I do, right? My ability to select here is also being strategic, right? I'm not just lost in the tactical, the thing I want to do, but I'm asking myself, what's the best way to use the things that are at my disposal, right? And that's what I do when I do select, from the options that I have in front of me. All right. Thanks. Thanks for coming along. All right. So the key is to try to slow things down, right? Where you can. You zoom in and move from a fully automatic response to a more considered and purposeful response that aligns with who you are and what you are seeking to accomplish. I love that. Just thinking the other day, I don't know why, but one of my weak points in years past has just been when things aren't going my way. Even when things are going my way, I get to talk a lot. You know, when I'm in the right mood, in the right place, I seem to talk more than I need to. And one of the things I'm doing these days as part of maturity is reducing my amount of talking, because sometimes I say things that are not who I am. I'm just under the moment. I'm just under the emotion at that point in time. You know, I know I have that tendency, so I'm working on that. So one of the things this helps you is just to ask yourself again what works. Sometimes we say things that are not doesn't reflect who we are, who we say we are, and we don't really mean it, but it's just the way we feel at that point in time, right? I see parents who curse their children. They don't really mean to curse their children. This is more on my tradition, my Yoruba people. When you're speaking to their children, say, "Oh, kone da fun e," don't be well with you. They don't really mean it, but that's the way they feel at that point in time, right? But the words are still just as powerful. The words are still just as effective negatively on that child. Right. I remember my cousin, being under such words, and that eats away on the sense of self of that child. that eats on the self-esteem of that child. And without self-esteem, we're nothing in life. That's why most people in the third world they behave less than they should be. You have people from the third world go into negotiation with people from more developed country, and they come out short, right? Because they don't have the self-esteem. They think of themselves less than they should be. And that has come from the environment in which they grew up. Someone has talked less to them. Someone has not affirmed their personality. Someone has not spoken positive words to build them up on the inside. They feel less about themselves as they should than they should. So therefore, that affects their interaction with other people. Sometimes that comes from people around us. We're just talking, not because they necessarily mean it, but they're talking out of their emotion at that point in time. That used to be in a place I used to worship. I hear it's getting better, you know. The pastor doesn't necessarily mean a lot of things that he says, but it doesn't reduce the effect on the people. He might not mean it, but the effect is still the same. But when we step back and take ownership of our life, then we know to choose our words. We know what to say and what not to say, so that we can be a blessing, whether intentionally or unintentionally, to those that are hearing us. Right? So when you step back to understand what's going on, you interpret it, then you come to a place to select. You are making a judgment. That's what Jesus Christ is saying. He's saying when they slap you, make a judgment. Sometimes the right judgment is to slap the person back. If that's the right judgment, slap the person back. That's what Jesus is saying. Slap the person back if that is the right choice. Sometimes that is the right choice. But just saying that whatever you do, you are responsible for it. So sometimes that might not be the right choice to slap the person back. But whatever it is, that whatever choice you make, you are responsible for it. The consequence you will bear. Right? So that's all we're talking about here, Whatever you do or not do in life, every waking day, you are responsible. 2024, don't just do things. Sit back, count the cost, decide. You are responsible for your decision. Jesus Christ would say, before you go to war, you first of all count, what do I have? Can I win this war? Don't just go in the middle of it. You already slapped the person and you realize, wow. No, you're going to bear the consequence. And God ain't going to protect you. Sorry. Whatever you sow, you're going to reap it. So that's why God is telling you ahead of time. Think before you sow. Think before you sow. Because when you sow, you'll reap it. Think before you sow. Because when you sow, you'll reap it. Right? So after I've decided what choice I want to take, then I do it. Even that requires me to be strategic, right? Even though I've selected the right choice, I then have to think about the right way to execute it. Is the E in the wiser, is to engage, is implementing that which you have decided, right? So once you've selected a strategy, you need to engage. And at this stage, the option can be unique to the circumstance, right? And that's we'll talk about mindfulness. Sometimes we'll make a right decision, but we implement it wrongly. Just because I made a right decision is not the end of the story. I have to implement my decision in a right way. There is a right way of doing things. There's a right way of doing the right thing, and there's a wrong way of doing the right thing. I know someone was trying to get back to the wife. They've had issues, husband and wife. Guess what? He planned for the wife's birthday, planned a vacation, an expensive getaway for the wife, bought flowers, Guess what? The wife didn't receive it. It was a good thing. Good getaway, expensive. Flour, expensive. But it did not break the genes. It did not connect them because there's a right way to do the right thing. There's a wrong way to do the right thing. The way you present that expensive gift will determine whether it will be received or not. The fault is not necessarily the wife's. It might just be the husband. He's decided on the right thing to do, but there's a right way to do the right thing, just as there's a wrong way to do the right thing. Just because you've decided to do the right thing is not the end of the story. You got to find out the right way to do it, the right way to engage. Don't come and practice that which is done in another environment, in this environment, that is not taking cognizance of the uniqueness of the environment. You got to be mindful of the environment you're trying to execute it in and what works in that particular environment. It might have worked in another one. You need to climatize it, weatherize it to the environment you are trying to implement it in, right? So chances of success also increase if you first reflect on what we do well and what we don't do well, right? So if you know you got to know yourself also. After we've talked about all the environment, you have to ask yourself, what am I good at? And how can I implement what I'm good at in this particular environment? Don't copy what someone else is. If you're a good talker, then use your talking. If you're not a good talker, just do it the way you can. Just say the few words and use your action to cover it. But you got to be cognizant of who you are, what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and what the particular situation is, and fit the two together to make it work, right? So after we've done engaging, then we'll learn from the whole experience, and that's the our part. Is the reflecting, right? So after you've done the whole thing, learn from the experience, and when you learn, you gotta be open. Like the experience I talked about when the wife did not receive that expensive getaway flower. What should have been done is to sit back and ask the question, what went wrong? What did I do wrongly? Why didn't she receive it? Was it me or was it her? See, if she had received the expensive gift, then she would have cheapened the relationship. She wanted him more than the gift. But the way it was presented, it looked like she wanted the gift more than him. If she doesn't receive it, it's because she treasures the relationship, not because she hates you. She's telling you that it's more than just the gift. There's something more that I want. You won't see that if you're carried away by the emotions of being offended. You gotta see beyond that. Gotta step back, step out of the frame so you can see the whole picture. Understand what's happening so you can learn from it and do better. Right? And that's what the R is right? Look at what worked, what didn't work, and you can learn from it and do better next time, because life will keep on happening. You can share with someone else. It becomes your rag to help someone else with. It becomes your rag also to do better next time, right? So when it's all over, the consideration of what happened and why help us to see things we may have missed and helps us understand the causes and effects of those emotional cascades that may have escaped our notice. If we're going to learn from our experience and do better next time, we have to do more than just live through it. We got to reflect. You got to do more than just live 20 and 23. 2023, what did you do well? What didn't you do well? What can you do better in 2024? Don't let 2023 go to waste. Have you reflected on 2023? You didn't do some things well. I don't have to be a prophet to tell you that. You didn't do some things well. What are you going to do about it in 2024? You did some things well. What are you doing about it in 2024? What more of it can you do in 2024? Right? So and that's pretty much all I have. It is a wiser model. We watch, we interpret, we select the option, we engage, and we reflect. That's a model being presented here in this book, one of the ways by which we face life. Life hits you the wrong way. Step back, step out of the frame, understand what went wrong. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? What did I take for granted? What did I overlook? Interpret it. What are the stakes? What can I do to what will be the results? What do I stand to lose? Right? Select what action to take, engage and do those things. Reflect, do a feedback so you can do better and continue the circle. That's life. We'll continue doing that every day of our life. We'll continue to get better. Right? So it's a way by which we don't just do things out of emotions, right? But we do things that have a base, that are factual. You know, Life does not run on emotions, even though we have emotions. Life runs on principles and laws. Principles and laws. Principles and laws. Life will not respond to your emotion. Life will respond to principles and laws. Principles and laws, right? So the way to win in life, principles and laws, right? So it's not how emotional you are. The world we live in is the world we create, right? Whatever what the environment we live in is the environment we create. The reality we live in is the reality we create. You are responsible for the life you're living right now. You created it. If your life is going to change and get better, guess who's going to change it? You. You're responsible for changing the life you have right now to the life that you want. You just need to step back and ask, what can I do better? What can I do differently? And begin to do it, right? In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are only few, right? It's not in the many, it's in the few. It's in the few that you get to do. It's not all the options. It's in the few that you get to do. That's what changes your life. That's what makes your life better. That's how you face life.